Hey there, thanks so much for stopping by. Today I've got a really awesome interview with Andre Hakel Jr., who helped build Client Ascension. And for those of you in the agency world, you know that Client Ascension is one of the best tools out there for building and scaling a marketing agency. We talk about mindset, the entrepreneurial lifestyle, and how he was a part of building a $100,000 month a couple months ago. So thanks so much for stopping by. Enjoy the interview and click that like and subscribe button if you do go on to enjoy the video. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks so much for stopping by. I'm here with my friend Andre today. We got a good little interview going. Just going to talk about his agency, some of the lead gen strategies he does, his story. But Andre, take it away, man. Tell us about yourself and some of your agency and maybe how it got started. You know who you are, and I'll hand over the floor to you.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Will. Love what you're doing with the show and with your agency and in the online space. So my name is Andre Hakel Jr. I'm basically an entrepreneur that runs an agency that does lead generation for other agency owners and a coaching program that helps other agency owners to start and scale. And I got started in the space like 4 or 5 years ago, actually not in the agency space in digital marketing, but like in the sneaker reselling business. That was like my first taste of entrepreneurship. And back then it's funny because I'm pretty sure your audience and you and me, we're all like accustomed to money Twitter, which is where all of like these online agency owners hang out. Like when I first got started 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be called sneaker Twitter. And that's where all of like the sneaker heads and resellers used to hang out. So I was on Twitter way back then running different businesses. And then fast forward to now, I'm on money Twitter and again, growing an agency and a coaching program.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's so I have a similar story, but not nearly to your success. I bought what was it Jordan 11 Space Jams back when I was 16 years old.
No,
Do you remember when those dropped? I don't know. They were the
yeah, dude, I
2016
went to the
versions of I
mall with
copped them
my
and I was
mom.
like, dude, so I was like one of the only people in my friend group to get them. I'm like hyped about reselling them. Like I wanted to get into it, and dude, I got scammed out of my 11s. I had to ship.
No.
This guy took my money from Kixify. Do you know that app? It's
Oh
like a
yeah.
Kixify app, and he sent me a fake PayPal. I was so stupid, like
Oh
16
my
years
God.
old, got scammed out of it. So never going back to
Dude,
that
I
again. I
can't
think
tell you,
lesson
like,
learned.
I learned so many lessons. Like, I didn't make a whole bunch of money. Honestly, like, I got out of it what I wanted to, which was like, I got into sneaker reselling because I love sneakers. Like, I wanted to have a pair of Space Jams, but my mom
Hmm.
wouldn't buy them for me. And as like a 16-year-old, I didn't have like $300 to spend on shoes like every
Right.
week. And so I would just buy a bunch of pairs, resell enough to be able to have my own pair for free. And that's what like I got out of it. But like I had so many happenings like the one you just talked about where I got scammed or I made a stupid mistake,
Hmm.
and a lot of that taught me I guess what to do in these situations now today.
Absolutely. I think some of that stuff is necessary, especially in any business you start, you're going to mess up. But it was definitely an eye opener because, you know, some stuff like that has happened since then. And you're just like, all right, I've learned my lesson. I'm good to go. Like, not falling for
Yeah.
that stuff anymore. Well, cool, man. That's really awesome. I'm trying to make my splash on Money Twitter as well. But hey, can you talk a little bit about the start of your agency? What that process was like, and then if you're comfortable sharing kind of how much you've scaled it to a month, and then you know what your goals are for 2023, because I know that a lot of people on Money Twitter have some ambitious goals, and I bet you're in that space as well. So yeah.
100%. Yeah, so I started my agency I want to say September 2020, so about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And I started it with the guy I was doing the podcast with, Christian, who you've probably seen on Twitter. We went to school together, did a podcast together. And then my cousin, who does all of the sales for our agency. So, like, right away, I had a really good team. Like, we were three co founders
Mhm.
that all specialized in either lead gen, sales, or fulfillment, like the three core components of any agency. And
Right.
so that's a key part of the story because the way we've been able to scale is a large part due to that. But when we first started our agency, we were pretty lost. Our offer didn't really make sense, and like I think we had invested $10,000 between the three of us into the business bank account to say, okay, this is all we need really to get this off the ground. And I want to say
Mhm.
like 75% of that in the first 3 months was put into Facebook ads with nothing to show for it.
Mhm.
So like the first 3 months of our agency was negative. Like we lost money consistently for 3 months to the point where we didn't have any money left to try again. Or we didn't have a lot of money left. I think it was like $1,000 or $2,000. And that's when we came across cold email, which was like this really cheap, low budget way to acquire clients for an agency. And so just like with anything else, I got really into it, learned all the ins and outs, found the people that were having success with it, and just like got obsessed. And so we took cold email, got really good at it, and used that to scale our own agency. And that was still with a pretty shitty offer. And so it got to the point where we're like, okay, we're actually really good at the cold email thing. Let's just offer that. Because obviously it's helped us and it can help other people that were struggling like we were. And so we started offering cold email as a service. It's a lot different now than it used to be. And we've had a bunch of iterations over like our agency growth journey. But yeah, we went from like literally losing money. And I think in the first 6 months even, we only made like $5,000 or $6,000. And now we're consistently doing, we had one six-figure month this month in 2022. We want to make that like the norm in 2023. But yeah, we'll hit a 7-figure run rate in 2022, which is dope. And yeah, we could kind of go through how we got there.
Yeah, definitely. That's super awesome, man. Congrats on the success. It sounds like a lot of hard work has paid off. I think that what I've found is consistent among agency owners specifically, but also just really any successful business, is that consistency is like the one core piece of like, this is what I'm going to do or it's nothing. And I think that, like what you said, you had 5 to 6 months where you made a total of 5 to 6 grand across a couple of different people. And then now you're doing 6-figure months. It's crazy. Like it just shows, I think a lot of people that I don't say a lot of people, I think there's some people that watch my channel that will watch these videos and then like watch Eman Gadzi's videos and watch all the Sebastian Georgiou videos and be like, I'm going to do this. And then like never really make the first step. And so I think once they do, they don't see any results. And then it's like, this isn't for me. It's like, nah, man, keep it going. Like consistency is the absolute number one thing. I love that. That's awesome. So lead gen is pretty much the backbone of your agency. Can you talk about, I know you said cold email without revealing too much. If you were to give somebody advice on, okay, somebody came to you and they said, I want to start an agency. I want to get it to 10K a month. How would I do that with cold email? What would you tell them?
Yeah, great question. And I'm not afraid to share. Like that's actually how I've been able to grow and have as much success in this space as I've had is just like sharing, and not holding anything back. And so what I would say to someone just getting started with cold email is there's really 3 things to consider. Like if you could do these 3 things well, you'll have success with cold email. And the first is deliverability. This is like the boring stuff that no one wants to talk about or spend time on, but like you have to ensure that your emails are actually being delivered to the inbox. And it's actually really simple the way you do it. You just buy multiple domains, and there is a process in doing that. Basically, any sending tool or cold email software has a guide on how to properly set up email accounts to be used with their tool. So just take the time to go through and set up multiple email accounts properly. And so the way I measure it is if you message 1,000 people through email, you'll get 1 client. As long as you have an offer that people kind of want and you have a sales process that sort of works, right? So like what I'm getting at there is if you can't sign a client from 1,000 prospects in an email sequence, it's not the email sequence that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And so that's the measure, right? Deliverability. If you want to reach out to 1,000 prospects a month, you probably only need like 5 email accounts to do that. So that's the first thing. Set up 5 email accounts. Make sure they're warmed up. Make sure they're set up properly. Follow the guides that are online. Most people just completely skip that step. They might use like a Gmail account or an account that's not fully warmed up, or even their main business email account, which you totally do not want to do. So that's step 1. Step 2 is targeting. Again, like this is just like general marketing advice, but still it's so important, especially with cold emails. Like if your target market say is e-commerce brands, like go one level deeper and with your email campaign. And it's not to say you can only work with these people, but for your email campaign, you have to be talking to a specific niche. Instead of just e-com brands, go after supplement brands or fitness brands in the UK. and find different variables that you can point to that makes the targeting unique, because that's going to feed into the third piece, which is messaging. And if you know you're targeting a really specific subset in a niche or an industry, your messaging can be a lot stronger. You could use relevant case studies. You can use personalization without having to use any of the AI personalization tools, because you know exactly who you're speaking to and what they care about. And so if you string all three of those things together, deliverability, specific targeting, and personalized messaging that's relevant to your targeting, you'll email 1,000 prospects, get on the phone with, say, 5 to 10 of them, and close one of them on your offer. And if that works out in a way that's ROI positive, you just 5x it or 10x it or 20x it. And it's not like Facebook ads. And the great thing about cold email, it's not like when you increase your ad budget on Facebook ads, the entire ad changes and Facebook starts to show it to different people and starts to drain it underwater. Like cold email is really as simple as like 1,000 prospects will get you on 10 calls, will get you on one client. 2,000 prospects will get you 20 calls, will get you 2 clients. And it's very scalable in that sense. So like that would be my quick starters guide: is buy 5 domains, find a sending tool that works for you. I personally like Mality and QuickMail, and then get really specific with your targeting, write decent messaging. And like you said, even before that, it's all consistency. Like it might not work for the first 3 months, but you have to keep going. And that's what most people aren't willing to do.
Right. Yeah, that's what separates the boys from the men, for sure. So I love that. That's tons of value in that. And if you guys don't take advantage of that, you're dumb. But somebody might go, Andre, that's a great strategy. Where can I even find 1,000 leads? What would you tell somebody that asks you that?
Yeah, so again, it's like really first off figuring out who are you trying to find. It's you also have to be like smart about it too, because there's obviously not like 1,000 people that sell Marvel apparel in e-commerce, right? So like
Right.
if that's your niche, you're probably gonna struggle to find a prospect list of 1,000. But if it's something like marketing agencies with 10 to 50 employees, because that's typically the gap where they need growth or they need help with sales and lead gen, then you can go to a bunch of different tools. Like it gets really the lead gen list building process now especially is a lot different than it used to be, just because like as you can imagine, like data and privacy,
Hmm.
it's not as easy to find emails that are accurate and up to date and relevant. But what I found is like the best way to do this is it's like a 2-layered approach. So I always build the accounts list first and then the prospect list. So what I mean by that is I will first identify accounts or companies that I want to work with. And then from that list of companies, I will say, okay, I want to talk to the CEOs, the founders, the owners, the CMOs, the marketing directors, the sales VPs, whoever the decision maker contacts I think are. I'll basically enrich that list of companies with those job titles and decision maker contacts. The way I do that, the first step to finding the contact or the accounts list, basically companies I want to work with. There's actually a really good tool called Ocean, and like say I want to work with marketing agencies like Knowledge X, like my agency. I could just type in Knowledge X and it'll show me all companies that are similar to Knowledge X. So it's like a lookalike search tool.
Okay.
And then I could take all those companies that are like Knowledge X, export them, and put them into a tool like Apollo or Snove.io or Sales Navigator, and say I want the CEOs, the founders, the owners, all the decision makers at this list of companies, and they'll give me the emails. And so it's a 2-layered process of first identify the types of companies you want to work with. Once you have that list of companies, then identify the decision maker contacts at those companies, and then use tools like, again, Apollo, Snove, Uplead, Sales Navigator. ListKit is a tool I'm working on that'll be available soon to help with stuff like this. And so just being resourceful. Like there's so many tools and so many ways to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, that's, man, tons of value. I think that's super cool. And, if there's anybody out there that's watching that, needs a sign to start, I think this is it. There could not be a more simpler, this is what you need to do. So super cool, man. I know you mentioned earlier that you're working on a coaching business. Can you talk a little bit about that, kind of where that's at right now, and then how you got that started? I would assume, right? You kind of learned like, oh, this is working for me. I'm going to teach everybody else. And you spoke a little bit earlier about how that's how you were able to grow. But talk about that process of turning your value that you're providing into actual coaching business and how you kind of found leads for that as well.
Yeah, great question. So the way I got started in the coaching business was through Cold Email Wizard, who's like a
Mm-hmm.
really popular guy or brand or page in the money Twitter space.
Yep.
And so like I actually learned cold email through him. I took his course right before we started our agency. It was like $97 at the time. It taught me everything I needed to know about cold email. And so we kind of built up a good relationship. I joined his private groups. I added a lot of value to people that he was working with, and he like you can tell like when someone is really into the work that you're doing and actually is
Mm-hmm.
making a commitment to add value to not only you but also the people that you're working with. And that's what I was doing, and I wasn't even realizing it. It was just like I was so like obsessed and in the mix with cold email, just wanting to learn everything and just everything there is to learn about it, that I was just
Right.
naturally like the most active, and I was asking questions, providing value, sharing updates, sharing like excited about all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he caught on to it, I think. And then we got on like a call, and he was asking about what I was working on, and this was right when we started to have success with our agency, which was cool because it kind of was like a case study for his course. And then I was also working on a resource at the time. It was like more, it was going to be an SOP for my agency,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going to be used to train inbox managers, which was basically like a role where if we got a response to a cold email, the inbox manager would go in and try to get that person to book a call. And he was also like in a spot where he hadn't released a course in a long time. So he's like, this would actually be a great course for people that have bought cold email mastery,
Mm-hmm.
because now they know how to cold email. They have to now learn how to handle the replies and book calls.
Right.
And so I just gave him the entire resource and said, do whatever you want with it and see how it goes. And so we partnered on that course. It was called The Vault. And within the first 30 days he launched it, we did over 6 figures in revenue.
Nice.
And that was more than like I'd ever made with an agency or anything else. So for me, that was like, holy shit, like we need to do more of this. What's the next course? And then we were kind of like, okay, slow down. Instead of doing low ticket things, let's just start a coaching program, because a lot of other people in our space were kind of going in that direction. And so we kind of looked at everything we knew, all the value that we could provide, and we started Client Ascension to basically help other agency owners in the lead generation space start and scale their own agency business. Because I had done it, Daniel had done it, and then the team that we had at the time was very well versed in, again, lead gen, sales, and fulfillment, the three core pillars
Mm-hmm.
that any agency needs to grow and succeed. And then now it's turned into a whole different beast, because us four are four out of the, I think, 17 coaches that we have in the program now that teach things like Twitter growth, LinkedIn growth, appointment setting, mindset, lead generation through different channels. Like, just we have coaches in all different topics and areas of expertise now, and over I think over 170 students in the program now too, which is just nuts.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I said this in my last podcast with Caden Jara, but it continues to be true. You get rich by starting a successful business. You get wealthy by teaching other people how you started that successful business. And it continues to be true, man. And I was saying in that as well. It's like it's also a little like sense of purpose kind of thing too, because you're yes, you're being the successful entrepreneur, but what good are you really doing if you're not teaching other people how to get out of the crappy situations that you used to be in as well? You know what I mean?
That's
It's like
exactly it.
everybody starts from here, and if you could teach other people how to get from, here to here, then man, you're doing God's work. That's super cool, man. Congrats to all the success, man. Dude, 6 figures in that amount of time, that's crazy. Um,
Thank you.
Awesome,
Yeah.
man. Well, hey, is there any good side projects that you're working on? I feel like people would probably be interested if you're building any of these side businesses, or are you dialed into, your agency and Client Ascension right now?
Yeah, so like again, I've been in entrepreneurship for like 4 or 5 years now, and I think the biggest reason it took me this long to have success was because my focuses were so diverted,
Hmm.
and I was trying so many things, and I want to go back and change it, because I think that's how I learn about myself and my strengths and where to put my focus. but
Absolutely.
it also held me back from having success. So now that I have these businesses and these models and these teams, especially the team is so important, that is succeeding. I'm pouring everything into just that. We are working on other side projects, like ListKit is a SaaS that we've been working on for
Mhm.
over a year now. And so like that's in development. We work with like on a partnership level with some of the students in Client Ascension and their different businesses. So we have like bits and pieces of what other people are doing, but anytime I look at an outside opportunity or a side project, I always evaluate how it fits into the current mix
Mhm.
with KnowledgeX and with Client Ascension and with ListKit. Those are really like the three businesses we're fully a part of. Um, and also like what you said is so important. Like if someone is sitting there and they're struggling to come up with an offer, they're not really sure how they can provide value. The reoccurring theme for me and really any successful person is helping their past self, like you said. And
Mhm.
it doesn't just have to be through a coaching program because, like you and Kaden were talking about, you could get rich through an agency and then get wealthy through coaching. Like that's one
Mhm.
model, but the agency too was actually built to help my former self because I'm just now helping agency owners that are struggling with lead gen and growth,
Right.
just like I was when I was burning all my money on Facebook ads. Coaching is a way more scalable, cash flow positive business model, and it's not for everyone because you really do have to be able to coach and build a team and community of coaches to provide value to your students because they
Mhm.
are pretty expensive. Coaching programs typically are. But yeah, it's like if you can help your former self through some service or coaching program or software even, that's typically the most successful way of doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Cool. Um, we'll talk a little bit about your mindset going into all this stuff. I mean, you've touched on it throughout the podcast, but man, what's something that separates you from other successful entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs just don't take mindset seriously at all.
Mhm.
And you see this on the money Twitter space as well as like a lot of guys and no judgment or anything like that, but like the vibe on money Twitter is like, oh, like I'm the man, like I'm just gonna do this all myself, like fuck
Yeah.
everyone else, like get out of
Yeah.
my way, like I don't need you, like there's a big ego, like a big ego cloud around money
Yep.
Twitter. I think personally, and I see this because I've been working with a mindset coach from South Africa for like 3 years. We initially had him on our podcast back in college, and I was just really like, I need to be around someone like this to help me because the biggest reason entrepreneurs fail in our space, especially, is because they are just not good operators. They are not good business owners, and it's not because they don't understand business or know how to sell or do marketing. It's because they are not showing up to do these things with full clarity and confidence in a proper mindset. And it's just like it's so simple. It's simple stuff, but like showing like if you're communicating with a client or if you're on a sales call, things that are going on in your personal life or how you respond to certain things based on past experiences and traumas and anything else, like those show up and have an effect on outcomes, and people just don't realize that. And
Mm.
I think there it comes with a certain like maturity level as well to like say, okay, I'm going to actually go and get help with something like this. But the benefits are exponential, and we actually we've proven it in Client Ascension. Like Client Ascension, for about half the time it's been around, we didn't have a mindset coach. And then one of my friends told me like, "Hey, I noticed you keep talking about this mindset coach that you work with. Have you ever thought of bringing him in to help other Client Ascension students?" And so I did, and he's been in there for almost a year now. And I just did a client success interview with one of our students in Client Ascension, and he had one of the most insane transformations, specifically credited towards working with a mindset coach. It's like
Mhm.
insane. And I think it's just something people neglect. But for me, like mindset and what it means in business is just being able to show up in client conversations, in sales conversations, in conversations with my employees and my team members
Mm.
with full clarity and confidence, and not having the other shit that's happening behind the scenes in my personal life or in my past experiences or whatever else show up and have a negative effect on those outcomes. So that's just the way I look at mindset.
Absolutely. I actually had I have a client right now that I was just running TikTok ads for, and she was having also background on me. My agency specializes in social media management, email marketing, and paid ads. We do some like smaller stuff as well, some smaller services like within that. But those are the three pillars. And so I was running TikTok ads for this woman's skincare business, still am, and she had somebody running her email marketing, and they were just like a two-person agency, and
Mm.
I say agency, but like two-person, and they had some personal life stuff going on. But like, if you're a two-person business in general, you should be responding to emails. And she was sending them emails and would not hear back for like weeks. And
Crazy.
look, if you're like 8, 9 figure business, then you might have an excuse, right? But I
Yeah.
think as like a two-person agency, you need to, regardless of what's going on in your personal life, like what you said is, be there, have the mindset, and that's what lost her business and ultimately gave me business. She was like, "Well, do you do email marketing?" I was like, "That's a pillar, baby. Come on, let's go." So yeah, I think that's everything you said is super true. I'll end on this. So I was doing some research on you, and you're building a YouTube channel. Do you want to talk about your strategy with that and maybe some goals within your YouTube channel in 2023? And kind of like, I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs, they kind of do it when they have time. But is there a certain amount of uploads that you want to get per week, or a good short strategy? Or I know it's fairly new, but kind of speak on that and the passion behind that.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate you doing the research. But yeah, on YouTube. So basically, like, I'm not the most outgoing person. I'm not, I wouldn't say like an introvert, but maybe like back in the day, I would consider myself an introvert. So like social media was kind of like big and scary for me in the beginning. And that's why I gravitated towards Twitter, because like you could hide behind a Twitter profile, no
Mm-hmm.
problem. Like you never have to show your face. You never have to get on video. You could just fucking pull up your phone and type.
Yep.
And I love that. And I did it for a year, and people really resonated with the content, and I still do it, and I have a really nice community over there. But I also realized that I'm now in a position where people are looking to me for help through my coaching program or through my agency, and to make a decision like that, a purchasing decision to join a coaching program or to sign up with an agency, there's a level of trust that needs to be established, and that can be further established through being on video. And so for me, like that's part of it is I could build a lot more trust with my audience and with my following. But the bigger part of it is actually for me to get a lot better at what I do. Because what I've found is like if I'm like one of the videos I'm going to work on this week is how to get clients from cold email in 2023. Like really
Mm-hmm.
simple, but like it now forces me to sit down and like how am I going to get clients from cold email in 2023? And now I have to like write that out and think about it. And by presenting it on video and talking about it just to a camera for 20 minutes, it's naturally going to force me to get better at this and to show up to conversations with clients or people that I'm helping this with on a paid level, like come across way more confident and like I know what I'm talking about. Because I do, because I talk about this stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually a way for me to get better at the skill sets that I am getting paid to teach or to help people with, which is huge. And then the other piece that you talked about was like, okay, shorts. Shorts are actually really easy. I don't fully understand the strategy yet, but from my YouTube videos, I could get shorts. From this podcast
Mm-hmm.
episode, we could get shorts. From my coaching calls within Client Ascension, I get
Mm-hmm.
shorts. And then I have my own podcast that I do as well once a week where we get a ton of shorts. So as long as you're showing up and putting content out to the world, like in these longer formats, you'll be able to have someone. There's like a million of these agencies out there now
Mm-hmm.
that'll go and take your long form and clip it up into a bunch of shorts. And then I'm currently just posting those on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok like twice a day. And I just started these accounts on all those platforms, and like the views are insane. Like we just started an Instagram account like last week,
Mm-hmm.
and we had like all of our videos get like 5 or 10 views, and then like the last two got like 15,000 and 17,000, like out of nowhere.
Dude,
So I think
those short
strategy
form
for
content's
shorts,
crazy.
yeah, just rip volume. Just but focus on the long form. Just show up, make sure the long form is really high quality, and then have someone in the background just clipping up all different pieces of it. Like I don't really look at the clips ever because I know that I'm showing up here today and I'm sharing a
Mhm.
lot of valuable stuff. The clips are going to take care of themselves. And so I
Right.
just focus on this part.
Right, definitely. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And wishing you all the success in YouTube in 2023. Similar thing to me. I started my YouTube channel back in, well, I say started. I really started like a year ago. I have a Toyota Tacoma. I made like truck content, but I started making like agency content back in August. I think at the time I was at like 300 subscribers, and I'm up to almost 1,500 now. But it's like
Wow.
even putting out a video a week or two videos a week and making sure the value is there, like people will just come to. And I started as like a method of I wanted this to be a funnel for my agency, you know, making like e-commerce videos, social media marketing videos. And I found that instead of getting leads from my agency, which I have got, it's just the value that I'm providing people like it is so much cooler than that. And there's so
Yeah.
many people that want that, like more than I could ever imagine. And of course, you start, you know, looking into like the E-Man Gadzis who like God has like grown in a million subscribers in the past couple months, which is crazy. But it's like there's so much value to be had in the YouTube space that if you're not on it long and short form, then you're missing out. And so you know I commend you for working at it and establishing it as a part of your personal brand because I was looking back at a couple of my older videos last week and it's like the you know you always cringe at yourself but looking at like a first video you're like what was I doing, man? Like
Yeah.
one of my first videos in the agency space was a fill light that I have was like covering half my face and it was like bright and then dark and one of the top comments was get a fill light, brother. I was like I'm trying, bro, I'm trying my best. But it's
Dude.
just like little stuff like that will figure themselves out, man, as long as you're, you know, like we were talking about earlier, as long as you're consistent and you're providing value, the goals are going to happen. And if you love the journey, then that's it. So, yeah, commend you for doing that and wish you all the success in 2023 because it sounds like it's going to be a big year with all the value that you're bringing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. 2022 is a big year, so I'm kind of
Mhm.
the pressure's on. Like, how do I top what just happened? But I think we have again the right people, the right offer, the right action plan to do it. The last thing I'll leave everyone with, because like anytime I get an opportunity to speak publicly or in front of an audience, the quote that changed my life and that I remind myself of every day, like I have it on a big canvas right behind the screen. It's live in the
Mhm.
day, measure by the decade. And what that is saying is to show up every single day, like live in the day, right? Show up every single
Mhm.
day, get done what needs to get done, but don't look for the outcome right away. Because a lot of people show up, they send 10 cold emails, and then they're upset at the end of the day when they didn't book a call or close a client.
Yep.
Or when they put out a YouTube video and it only got 40 views, and so they never post again. But if you just focus on the input, right? Get excited when you send 10 cold emails, regardless of what happens. Or get excited when you make 10 cold calls, regardless of what happens. Or get excited when you post 2 YouTube videos every single week, regardless of how many views.
Mhm.
It sounds like corny, but if you do that long enough,
True.
consistently enough, a decade later or a longer time later, even 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months later, you'll look back and be like, "Holy shit!" And I just did this recently with Twitter. Like I felt like my growth was really stagnating on Twitter,
Mhm.
and I just kept posting. I just went back to what worked, which is posting consistently. And like every day, like I'm not noticing like a huge change in followers, but I put a note in my phone like 3 months ago to say like Twitter growth slowed down, go back to the basics. Here's how many followers I had. And then I checked this like last week and I was shocked at how many followers I've grown. And I wouldn't have noticed on a daily basis because it's like 30 more followers today, 60
Yeah.
tomorrow, 70 the next day. But then you zoom out and it's like 3,000 over the course of a month. You're like, whoa, it was that much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, live in the day, measure by the decade. Words of wisdom.
Very cool. Very cool. Absolutely. And I want to put this out there too as well. It's like I think a lot of people when they start their I would say like Twitter, YouTube journey, whatever it may be, they're really focused on producing the highest quality content possible. And a lot of gurus and coaches out there will say to focus on um, quantity, sorry, versus quality at first. And it's so true. But like that quality will like it will build itself after you're making consistent content, consistent Twitter content, consistent YouTube content. Like, I didn't take any courses on video editing. I'm a terrible editor. I'm a terrible filmer, but I would like to think I'm okay at it now because I've just made like almost 100 videos. You know what I mean? It's like that stuff just helps it out. And as you're starting to grow, you'll figure that stuff out. So don't sweat the small stuff. Just focus on getting something out there. And man, I love the consistency, dude. It's super cool to see just like it pay off for people. And the cool thing also is that it consistently pays off for people that are consistent.
Yeah.
It's like it's never not worked for someone that is providing value on a consistent basis. Like it's just never not worked, and that's just the simple fact. So very, very cool stuff.
100%. Yeah, people are trying to hit it like a home run once and get lucky once, where that's not going to make you rich or wealthy. It's just going to be a false. It's going to be a false start, really, and those are always the worst. So yeah, stay consistent. This is really it. It's cliche, but it's the one thing that's gotten me here and a lot of other successful people as well. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Andre, that's all I got for you, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think there's been just tons of value in this one, and yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping up with you in 2023. I'll put all your links in the description for my viewers to check you out. But again, thanks so much for the value you provide on a consistent basis, and we'll be in touch. But for
yeah,
the people that watch this podcast, thank you so much for stopping by, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.
yeah, keep crushing it, bro. I love what you're doing. So.